Welcome. Welcome to the first session of a practice session for IBPS PO 2018 English language sessions. Right? So today our topic would be Grammar 1 practice session for error spotting questions. Now, what is the agenda and what would be the methodology of these practice sessions? I'll share with you and then move on for today's practice questions. So, the agenda and methodology will be simple. First, we will acclimatize ourselves. The idea is the whole agenda, of the agenda of the series is the idea is to acclimatize ourselves with the actual questions and practice them. Actual questions that have come in previous year's paper, right? Now, how are we going to do that? I'll give you a test first. So how would the test be? I'll give you a slide. There will be 4 or 5 questions and there'll be time set for that 4 or 5 questions. You'll pause the lecture in that slide for around that much time and you'll attempt those questions as a test. All of these questions will be based out of previous year's papers, mostly from IBPS PO previous year papers and some questions from other previous year papers. So the idea here is very simple. The questions, the 10-12 questions that we'll do in every class, you should take them as a test. So in today's class also, the error spotting questions, I'll give you around 10 questions of error spotting and identifying which one is the correct sentence kind of questions. You will be assigned some time. So while taking the test, you need to pause the lecture for that time which is being shown in the slide. So you don't overshoot on the time. So you just pause it, go through the question, try the question by yourself, and then you resume the video where I will resume the lecture where I will discuss the solutions of those questions in detail. Right. So that's the pattern, that's the idea behind broad idea of how these lectures would be, and this lecture, today's lecture, will be. Right. So let's start off with the practice session of English language for the IBPS PO 2018 exam. Error spotting is today's topic. Right. Chalo, let's see. The first set of questions, 7 questions, is there on your screen. The instructions are given. You get 3 minutes 30 seconds to do these 7 questions. So what you are supposed to do now is pause the lecture for 3 minutes 30 seconds and attempt these questions. Done? Very good. So we'll now move on to the next 3 questions. Question number 8, 9 and 10. And there, for each questions I'll give you, these questions are given one after another. Each slide will have one question. So for each question I'll give you 40 seconds. Instruction of 8 to 10 has been given on this slide. Pause the lecture for 40 seconds and attempt the question number 8. Done? Good. So let's move on to question number 9. 40 seconds, pause the video. Done? Now we'll move on to the last question, question number 10. 40 seconds. Done? Very good. So these were the questions. Time up. These were the questions. 10 questions. I gave you 5 minutes 30 seconds to do these 10 questions. So you see, if you look at the idea behind these questions is that we took all all those kinds of questions that all came in our IBPS exam or other banking exams. So once you do these kinds of questions within a time limit, then what happens, you're able to face the exams with more confidence, and that's the agenda of these sessions, of these practice sessions. As you know, in English, as much as you practice in the right way, that's very important, in the right way, the better you become in attempting questions of English, right? So we'll analyze each one of these questions and I'll give you in detail what is the answer to the question and the solution to the question. But first of all, how do we solve it? I'll just run you through. You remember mother rule. from the concept lectures of grammar for competitive exams. So we will be applying the mother rule for error spotting as we have learned. So what do we do in there? We check out the noun, pronoun, verbs in the first reading and identify which are the errors, if there are any errors of noun, pronoun, verb, and then mark it if we find it, or else we move on for adjective, preposition, conjunction errors, right? So if I the miscellaneous errors, so these are the two readings we will be able to identify one or the other error if there is. As far as miscellaneous errors and phrasal verb errors goes, they can be done in the first reading too, if the or in the second reading too, right? So this is something that we have already done, how to do it, how to apply mother rule. So I'll not go delve into detail of that. We'll just move on to the question. He took to reading time. So he is the pronoun. He took, which is a past tense verb, right? Which is as of now perfectly fine. To reading. So here, to is being used as a preposition and reading as the, the participle form of the verb. To reading times. Now here it's a noun, times. Now if you look at this, we're talking about a particular paper, right? Particular newspaper that is being read. So there we need to particularize it, and for that we need an article, right? So the error seems to be in this, but still we will move on and read the rest. For better knowledge of the facts. So for better knowledge of the facts which seems fine. So the error must be in this part. Times needs to be replaced with the times. We need a definite article there, right? So we definitely need a definite article there. So the error was in part B. Please understand, unlike the questions that we did in the practice session of grammar in the grammar for competitive playlist, where the markers of the part of the sentences were after the sentence. So he took to A slash, reading times B slash. Here it's just the other way around. The marker is, or the identifier is first, and then the part of the sentence goes. So be careful in that, because a lot of time people do what? Let's say they identified this is the mistake and the nearest one is C, and they mark C and move forward and end up getting a wrong answer, end up losing score even if they have answered solved it correctly, right? So that shouldn't happen. So that was the first question. Let's move on to the next question. The same method we will do. Let's see. Film viewers. So this is film viewers, subject, plural subject. Claim. So that's a plural verb. That the number of scenes, plural, depicting alcohol consumption, which is okay, have increased. Now this have, is referring to which subject? The number of scenes. So the number is the subject here. The number of is the subject here. So number is singular or plural? Number is singular. So therefore in the place of have, it should be has. So the error was in part C, and the error was of subject verb agreement. In the last one the error was of article. In this one the error was of subject verb agreement. Clear, right? So that was the question number 2. Now let's move on to the question number 3. 40% of the people alive today have never made a phone call. So 40% of the people is the indicative, is the subject. Alive today have never. So people, it should be agreeing with the people subject. So therefore have is perfectly fine. Have never made a phone call, but 30% still have no electricity connection to their homes. Now if you look at this, before but and after but, what is the tone of the sentence? Is it that before but they are talking about something positive and after but something negative? Or is it that before but they are talking something about positive and after but negative? So it's is it contrasting? Because if it is contrasting, then only then we can use that conjunction but. And if it's not contrasting, how can we use this conjunction but? If you look at this sentence, you'd see that the parts of the sentences are talking in the same direction. The first part is also talking about something which did not happen, negative, and the second part is also talking about something which has not happened, which is also a negative, right? So here we do not need a but, we need a and, because they're talking about the same type of thing. So therefore the error was in the part B. The but has to be replaced with and. Clear? Chalo, let's go move on to the question number 4. Workers with less personal problems. Now workers is the subject with preposition, less personal problems. Now the moment you come in here, you know there is a problem, because personal problems is, problems essentially is countable, right? One problem, two problem, more problems. So for countable things, we don't use less, we use fewer. We use fewer. So normally we will use less for uncountable things and fewer for countable things. So we should be replacing this with fewer, and the error therefore is in part A. We'll move on to the question number 5 now. Everyone who visits Singapore is impressed by its cleanliness, which is mainly a result of rigorous implementation of their strict laws. So everyone, singular, who visits, singular verb, is impressed, singular, by its cleanliness. So Singapore is being referred to here, so the pronoun is also fine, which is mainly a result of rigorous implementation of their strict laws. So if you are referring to Singapore as its here, why would I refer here as there? So we will not refer here as there, we will refer to it as its. So that's the answer. The answer is D. And why is it so? Because the error is of pronoun reference. So the error is of pronoun reference. All these errors we have already done in detail, how to identify them, what to do with them. All of these we have already done in our playlist of grammar for competitive exams. So if you have not gone through it, go through it, and then you'll see you'll be able to catch up this lecture in a much better way. Okay, so question number 6 now. Witness the young soldier's ability to repeatedly. The moment we see, this, witness is a verb which will need a subject, right? It cannot be used in a modifier form. If you see, this line is a modifier form. Witness the young soldier's ability to repeat hit bullseye at arms training. Instructors pushed him. So instructors witness something. Now if instructors witness something, so this part is a modifier phrase, and modifier phrase has to start with witnessing and not witnessed, right? So you remember the modifier errors that we also did, dangling modifier error, misplaced modifier error. There were no modifier error in this particular question, but wrong parts of speech has been used. Where you need an ing form of the verb used here, you are using, or the author, the question has used a verb in its ed form, which is wrong, right? So we need to replace it with witnessing. So the error was in part A of the sentence. Clear? Let's move on to question number 7. Oh, this would be question number 7. The bridal dress was most unique. Now what is most unique? There is nothing called most unique. You don't need to read the whole stuff to identify this adjective error. Obviously this is an adjective error, so you can tell me that, sir, we would have identified it in the second telling, but why do wait for that? Because if you look at this, you don't need to wait for the second reading. You just move through and see that unique itself means something which is in superlative. So you cannot use two superlative here. So you have to use unique singly. You cannot use it with most. So hence that's an error. Hence you would replace it with most unique with unique, and therefore the error is in part B. So that was question number 7. That was question number 7. Mistyped it. Question number 6. We have a question number 7. So we'll move on to the question number 8, 9, 10. Now question number 8, 9, 10 was different to an extent that they asked you to identify not the error or the sentence which had an error, but they asked you to identify the sentence which was correct. Now which means what? That there were two ways of looking at it or doing this. First is that you read through all the sentences and identify which is correct, or the other way, or you can mix is to read all the sentences and identify which one of them are wrong, so the remaining one is correct. So what I will prefer is that you use both of these techniques together and find out the answer as fast as you can, right? So that's the idea behind it. So Eric, question number 8, let's look at it. Eric Weiss would later be known as Harry Houdini, an eccentric illusionist who bespectacled his audience with sensational escape. So as of the now in this sentence, I couldn't find anything wrong. So I'll move on and see whether there's something very clearly problem with, some clear problems arise with the other sentences. Eric Weiss should later be known as, I mean, something which has already happened. You cannot say should later be known as. Should is a direction. So this doesn't make any sense. Eliminated. Eric Weiss would later be known by Harry Houdini. Now, you want to say that he would be known as his another name was Harry Houdini, or in the later part of his career he would be referred to as Harry Houdini. So that cannot come with the preposition by. By is a wrong preposition here. So you will have to eliminate this sentence can also not be correct. D. Eric Weiss would later be known as Harry Houdini. Up till now, okay. An eccentric illusionist who bespectacled his audiences from sensational escape. Now you amazed. Bespectacle means amazed. Amaze your audiences by doing something or with something. You don't amaze your audiences from something. So that's a wrong preposition used. That doesn't make any sense in this sentence. So therefore, the B, C, D are wrong. Hence, A, which we couldn't find any error in there. So A is right. Now you might ask me a question that, sir, why not E? Because if I did not find any error in A, it might be that A is the answer or E is the answer, right? You'll have to have this much confidence in you that you have studied so much and practiced so much. So if you're not finding any error in a particular sentence, you'll have to be confident that there is no error. Yes, you can be wrong in that premise, but it's better than marking all are incorrect, because that would be a guesswork. That would be a dumb guesswork, which I do not want, because then the chances of getting right are much lesser. All right. So question number 9 now. India has won the match with Bangladesh from 3 wickets. From 3 wickets? I mean, we don't say we win the match from 3 wickets. So this is eliminated. Wrong preposition used. India has been winning the match against Bangladesh by 3 wickets. How can I have present continuous tense, present perfect continuous tense? It doesn't make sense, right? India has won the match against Bangladesh by 3 wickets. This seems fine till now and will advance to quarter final accordingly. Perfectly fine. C seems to be perfectly fine, but still we will read D. India has won the match against Bangladesh from 3 wickets. Again, from cannot come. So eliminated. So your right answer is C. Your right answer is C. Question number 10 now. The last question. The consciousness of an individual is directly conditioned by the collective consciousness. So this is one noun and this is the verb, this is the preposition, and this is the another noun. Okay? A shared set of beliefs, doctrines and archives. So what is this collective consciousness? It is being said here, which operate as a homogenizing force within the society. See, till now, so which is the preposition that's referring to all these, which operate as a that collective consciousness operate as a homogenizing force within the society. So till now I'm not getting anything that's wrong per se, so I'll keep it there. The individual consciousness, conscious, not consciousness, conscious, wrong. We're talking about consciousness. The sense of belongingness of an individual, or the idea of being live, okay, and doing the thing in the right way. So that's what we're talking about. So conscious is the wrong word out here. The consciousness of an individual is directly conditioned from the collective. Conditioned from the collective? How can you condition from collective? You condition by. Okay. So with might also have come, but not from. So that's eliminated. The consciousness of an individual is directly conditioned by the collective consciousness, a shared set of beliefs, doctrine, archives, which operate as homogenizing force within society. So, as homogenizing forces. So, which is this plural that it's referring to? The plural that is referring to is collective consciousness. Now, collective consciousness is singular. So how can you refer to it as plural? So it has to be a homogenizing force rather than homogenizing forces, right? So therefore, the answer here would be A. So B, C, D eliminated, answer A, right? So that was your test. Those were the solution of the questions that we did, right? Now, one very simple question. These were actual questions that came in the past 1 or 2 years in your in IBPS, in different different types of banking exams. And if you look at this, were they difficult? No, not as such, right? With the kind of concepts that we have already done, these should seem to be a cakewalk for you, right? They were easy. Most of them were, to an extent, much easier than questions that you have done in your practice, right? So this is something that you should be very, confident about, that in actual exam you would be getting questions that are much easier than what you would actually have done in your practice, right? So let's see what would be a good score here. 9 to 10 would be a very good score. 7 to 8, no, 9, 10 out of 10. 7, 8 is be a good score. 5 to 6 average score, and less than 5 you need a lot of improvement. I would suggest that practice questions, and if necessary go through the concept lecture once more, so that you get the hang of applying the mother rule for doing the grammar question. So this is very necessary, my dear friends, that those who are less than 5 or 5, 6, they need to work a lot at grammar. So if you look at this, let's say a 7 and 8 score, which is a good score, in 5.5 minutes is something that you can do, right? So 5.5 minutes is what I gave you. And if you scored a 7, if you scored a 9 and 10, marvelous. But if you scored a 7 and 8 also, that's a good enough score, right? So in 5 minutes, if you're scoring that, in 20 minutes, that the stipulated time that you'll get for the English language section, you might as well score more than 26, 27, 25, more than 25 score, which would be a good score, right? Okay, so that was the idea behind the class. So I'll be posting other lectures from the other segments of this section, of this English language section, every in a couple of days. Every 2-3 days we'll be posting lectures on this, right? So stay tuned to it and practice a lot. Okay, thank you very much.